Alright, tonight we'll look at another little mini amplifier. This one is the Kinter K2020A Plus. Fairly popular. A lot more people probably know the Lepi or now Lepi version of this that was much more popular. But we'll just get right into it. First we're going to look in the box. Not much comes in here. Just going to show you. Oops. Like this. And there you go. Comes with this nice little foam spot for the amplifier and then the power brick. Pretty good packaging for such a budget amplifier. Kinter K2020A Plus. And let's see. As you see, the reason they call it the K2020A Plus is because it has the tri-path. I think it's the TA, or maybe it's the K2020 tri-path amplifier, which they say here is a Class T. But in reality, there's no such thing as a Class T amplifier. This is actually a Class D amplifier. The whole Class T thing is just something that tri-path did. Yeah, I have to say did because tri-path doesn't exist anymore. When I think how it goes is when tri-path first came out with this 2020 chip, we'll say, back in the, I don't know, it was before 2007. Back then, the Class D amplifiers were really only used for low frequencies, so subwoofers, sub-amps, car sub-amps, stuff like that. There really wasn't a lot of full-range Class D amplifiers going on. Class D wasn't very popular back then, so to avoid the Class D name on their stuff, they just came up with their own. Since they're tri-path, they just called it Class T, and realistically, there is no such thing as a Class T amplifier. All tri-path stuff is Class D. What made them different is, I guess, tri-path came up with something different with their PWM, or their pulse width modulation, that made their Class D, I guess, better at full range than current Class D amplifiers at the time. So they kind of wanted to separate themselves. But anyway, tri-path, I think they went out of business in 2007. All tri-path anything, intellectual property and everything was sold off to another company and stuff. So tri-path no longer exists. And well, let's just, since we're already on this path, we'll just keep going down it for the moment. A lot of the amplifier companies, I mean, a lot of the chips that were left over were sold off to another company or other companies. There's still some around. They're no longer being produced, but there's still some around. So they put things like limited edition and, tri-path, well, to really kind of reel you in as a selling point. And back when these came out, they were typically better than most other Class D amplifiers, but as time went on, it's not really a big deal anymore. Other Class D technologies caught up and stuff. This one goes for $40 on Amazon, and then there's a Texas Instruments, just Class D. I think it's the 3118. It's like $25. It's much cheaper, and I don't necessarily know if this one's worth almost double the price just because it's tri-path. I think this is kind of just something of the past, and modern Class D technology has caught up with it or surpassed it. But yeah, they throw on this limited edition. Well, of course it's limited edition. They don't make this chip anymore. The company that made it sucked and went bankrupt. And it's not that it's a bad chip. It's just that I don't think it's as special as it used to be. And before we go any further, this is a little spec sheet they give you with it. And on here, little troubleshooting stuff. And then specs, 20 watts times 2 RMS. Doubt it. That's probably going to be at like 10% THD. If I remember right, these things at 8 ohms probably put out a good 5 watts and about maybe 10 watts at 4 ohms. I mean, basically what I'm saying, even if it did put out 20 watts, it's not a good 20 watts. It's going to be a really dirty 20 watts. Anything else that matters? Frequency response 20 to 20 kilohertz as usual. Input sensitivity 200 millivolts, so pretty standard. I like this a minimum of 0.5% THD. So, I mean, that's not bad, but it's not that good either. Basically saying that the THD is not going to get any better than 0.5%. You want that to be as low as possible, which 0.5% is not bad. That's fine, but I'm going to guess most time once you start turning this thing up, it's going to be above 1%. And then dimensions, whatever. Obviously, it's not that big. It fits in my hand. And then power supply. The other reason these are 40, this limited edition one, is because they do come with this better power supply, which is a 12 volt at 5 amp. So if this thing was 100% efficient, it would put out 60 watts. But since this is a more or less a crappy Chinese power block, it's probably, I don't know, maybe 80% efficient, if that. So it's not going to put out 60 watts. It's going to put out maybe 80% of that. So, but still better than the little wall warts that come with some of the other ones, like this guy up here, little teeny. It's still going to put out a decent amount of power. And then on the back, you got your RCA. The MP3 thing just makes this look so dated, even though I think they still do that. It's basically, you could plug your MP3 auxiliary jack into this, whatever. You could plug your phone into it, or really anything that has a headphone jack, or whatever. Phone, MP3 player, whatever. You know, if you're already using these and you want to plug something else, then you could use adapter or whatever. It's just another input. Then you get these spring-loaded terminals, and be careful with these. If you push down on them too hard or something, sometimes they do pop out. And you can kind of put the spring back in there and snap it back in, but I've had these things come unsnapped a few times. And then the power input. And I've noticed the power cord, whoops, when it plugs in here, it doesn't go all the way in. You can kind of see that. It feels like, and it looks like it needs to go in further, but it don't. That's all you get. And it's kind of loose and wobbly, loosey-goosey. So mind you of that, you know, depending on what you're doing with this thing, you might need to like support this or something, because it should... it's just, I don't know. It should go in further. It doesn't fit very tight. It's pretty loose. Not good. This does separate, if it matters. This thing just almost... the cord hanging off the end of this almost weighs more than the brick does. So if that tells you anything. Oh, anything else? Nope, nothing on the bottom. Typical plasticky knobs. This ring around the outside here does light up. You'll see that when we hook it up later. Treble and bass knobs that also are plasticky, and the potentiometer in there feels just, you can probably hear this, like there's just fine sand in it. I mean, it works, but it does not feel great. And then you get a tone direct button, so if you push that, it bypasses these, and it's just, you know, and then obviously power on and off. I'm not going to open it up. There's plenty of pictures online of the inside of this. And yes, there is knockoff TriPath chips. This does not have a knockoff. There's plenty of pictures online showing that the chip inside this is a real official TriPath. I think that's going to be it. Now what I'm going to do is these TriPath little mini amps seem to be liked quite a bit online. I've had this one for a while. I have not done any serious listening. I've just kind of used it here and there just to, you know, serve small purposes. But we're going to hook it up. I'm going to listen to this. And then I also have this little Fosse amp, which has got a more, what I would say, a more common chip you see in these little mini amps, the TPA3116, which seems to be in tons of these little mini amps now. It seems like it's kind of taken place of the whole TriPath thing, and this is not a the TPA 3116 is not a TriPath chip. I don't know who it is, but it seems to be the new popular one. We're not going to compare this little guy because he's way underpowered compared to these two, and I already know he doesn't sound that good. He just serves a very small purpose. Basically just make some noise. And all right, let's get these things set up. Okay, I got both these amplifiers set up. The obviously the Kinter K2020A Plus Class D amplifier, and right next to it the Douk Audio BT10A, which uses the TPA3116 chip, which is, like I said, seems to be the more popular one. And this one also has Bluetooth. This does not have Bluetooth. We'll get back to that a little bit. But I have them both hooked up, and I'm just feeding them source from my music PC here, out the ASUS sound card, and RCAs here. And I'll switch more to this one when we get to this one. For now, we're going to start on this one. Then I'm also using a set of Andrew Jones Pioneer, or what are they, the BS22s, bookshelf speakers on each side here. And the reason I'm using these is because they've been around for quite a while. I think 2012 or 2013. They're a very, we'll say, a highly regarded, affordable bookshelf speaker. I think a lot of people can agree. They sound pretty darn good for their price and their category, you know, the space they live in. And I've had them a long time, or not a long time, but I've had them long enough. I've listened to lots of different things on them, many different amplifiers on them, so they would be suitable for this test. And then for my source during the video, I just have an audio file playlist pulled up on here on YouTube, just to avoid copyright BS. And side note, far as I know, there's tons of these audiophile, FLAC, 24-bit, 96, whatever, audio file playlists on YouTube. Far as I know, they all have to be BS, because there's no such thing as audiophile quality audio through YouTube. There's just not. Even if it was a higher quality file, I think there would still be compression and stuff going through the internet, and because it's not an audio streaming service. As far as I could tell, I think the highest quality bit rate you can get is, I think it's attached to the video's picture quality. I think if you're doing 1080p or higher on YouTube now, it can, through I can't remember the name of the compression, it'll do up to like 165 kilobit per second audio, which is not really that good, I guess. I mean, a good quality MP3 is 320 kilobit. So, I mean, it doesn't sound bad. It sounds pretty good, but also a lot of these audiophile songs in these audiophile playlists are very well recorded. So they sound pretty good even at a low bit rate. If you were to actually listen to them at even 1644.1 CD quality, they'd sound even better. And I'm sure if you had a system that could really process and play them at 2496, they might even sound even better. But unless you know any different, there's some tomfoolery or something they can do to get high quality audio through YouTube, which I don't think there is. All these audiophile playlists are total BS. So yeah, but anyway, it's copyright free, so I'm just going to use it just to avoid that other BS. So right now, the Kinter is hooked up. We're going to start this. I got the volume right here. You see it's about 10 o'clock. Pretty good volume. And the other reason I use these speakers is because they're not super sensitive. They're pretty average sensitivity, so they're not going to get super loud super easy. But at the same time, this may only put out 5-ish watts RMS at 8 ohms. It's not a lot, but 5 watts goes quite a ways, especially when you're not in a very big room. These are 6 ohms, so I guess that is going to help. But even at 4 ohm, it's going to do maybe 10 or 12 watts. I think 5 watts RMS is more power than many people realize. So even if we go up to, it's about 11 o'clock. We'll go up to, I don't know if you can notice, I've tested this with many other, I have actual 24-bit audiophile songs and many other wave files and stuff. I've tested this. Once this thing starts to get about halfway mark, you start to get this distortion and crackling in the tweeters. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's very annoying. And then sometimes your tone direct, when this button's out, that means the tone direct is on. That means these aren't going to do anything. If you push it in, now that's the treble. This treble knob is junk, at least on this one. Maybe if you could pull it apart and lubricate it, it might get better, but that's not something the end user should have to deal with. And then the bass knob. I mean, they work, but I noticed, off camera when I was messing with this stuff, that crackling in the tweeters that normally happens at halfway was starting to happen at like 9-10 o'clock. It got worse, and I didn't know why. I hooked up a different set of another set of bookshelf speakers, which I have right there. The ones down there, those are my own bookshelf speakers I've built. I know they don't crackle. I know they work perfectly fine, and it did it on those. So it's definitely the amplifier, and the only way I got to kind of go back to normal is just by re-enabling the disabling the tone direct and messing with these knobs a little bit, and then kind of clicking this in and out, and it seemed to go away, but I can't get it to, anytime I start getting near 12 o'clock on the volume, it crackles no matter what. So, and that seems like that volume, that seems like it's probably about 5, it's not 20 watts. I'm sure if you crank this thing all the way, it might put out 20 watts, but it's going to be a really dirty, crappy 20 watts. We're going to go back to this one here. So, as far as I'm concerned, this thing is useless. Hold on, let me try this again. Even at 11 o'clock, I can start to hear a little bit of buzzing in the tweeter. Low end is pretty good. I'll give them that. Yeah, even at 11, I mean, if I bump it down a little more, about 10:30. Yeah, it seems like if I get beyond 10:30, a little bit of crackling starts to come out of the tweeters, and anything beyond that, it just gets worse and worse. So, now, we're going to stop for a second and switch over to the Fosse BT10A. Okay, Fosse's hooked up. If you're wondering, I already did a review on this, and I even sent this into Audio Science Review to have it tested, and compared to a lot of other amps, it really didn't test that well, but for its price, it was fine. I think when I got this, they were $60-70. I got it used for like 40, but now there's several manufacturers between, like, I think FX Audio, Fosse Audio, Douk Audio. Oh, there's another one. I mean, there's several different Chinese companies that make these amplifiers now that all have the TPA3116 chip in them. They're all almost identical other than their name, and there's even ones now that looks exactly like this. It's Bluetooth, and it even has the treble and bass knob on the front for $43. This is $38.99, sometimes $40, and then now they have these with the bass and treble knobs, with Bluetooth and actual binding posts. Just a much better package for like $3 more, $5 more, whatever. And the power brick on these puts out, well, we'll just say 90 watts. It's not going to actually put out full 90, but it's a 90 watt power brick where this has a 60. And this is rated for 50 times 2, where this is rated for 20 times 2. But in the testing, as usual. They lied. It doesn't. Well, it will put out 50 times 2, but it's not going to be at 50 watts. It's not going to be enjoyable. I think at 1% THD, this was at 8 ohms, was doing 19 watts, around 19 or 20 watts, and at 4 ohms, it was doing about 30, 35 watts. So it is definitely outpowering this. But anyway, I'll put some links down in the description to other mini amplifiers to buy instead of this one. Don't buy this just because it's this tri-path limited edition crap. I will link some other amplifiers down in the description that are in the same price range as this, more featured, and probably sound better. So let's get started. The only thing I didn't like about this is there's no indicator on the volume knob, so I put a little triangle piece of electrical tape on there. Bass is much tighter, more solid, deeper, a little deeper, more solid. Highs are cleaner. I'm not getting any crackling at all, any distortion at all. Right. I'll turn it up to the point where this one seemed like it kind of maxed out, so you can see on the knob where it is. Yeah, about right there. This one's still clean as a whistle. I can't go any higher than that with this one because I don't know if you could really tell, it was actually starting to overpower the speaker. And that's with no bass gain or anything. This one definitely in the low end has more balls, but you know, it's a more powerful amplifier. And the reason I mentioned those other amplifiers just like this one, I don't know if I said it before, but they also use the TPA 3116 chip. So initially what I'm getting at is they all have different brand names, but they all have the same case, pretty much same layout. On the inside, almost all of them are identical. They just screen print a different name and model on the front. And this one I did off camera, of course, tried some audio file or quality files. No crackling. This one, if you do push it beyond, you know, if you go all the way over here, and I think once you get to about 2-3 o'clock where you almost got the volume maxed out, it does start to distort. But at that point, it's, you know, it's already run out of steam. Even at half, it was in my listening space down here, which is a decent size, the size of a good bedroom. It was more than loud enough. I mean, maybe for hammered drunk listening to some Metallica, you might want it louder, but I think this thing is going to put out enough for most people. Let me stop this. So yeah, this one it will start to distort too. I think it was actually, if I can get this focused, right around in there. I obviously wasn't doing it with these speakers. I had a bigger set of speakers hooked up that could handle it, but yeah, it was starting to fall apart right there. But still, even at noon, it was plenty loud. I'm quite surprised. So I'm not trying to be mean to Kinter or anything, but they still sell this thing for $38.99, and it just falls short of what a lot of these other newer ones are doing. I mean, this doesn't even have Bluetooth. It's not that great. I mean, you keep it below 1030, it's pretty decent. But why spend $38.99 when you can get something like this? You know, it's much better for a couple more bucks. And I looked, and I didn't really see Kinter offering anything else that's comparable to this for the money. So I can't recommend this. This is still for sale on Amazon, but I can't recommend it. Obviously, what I've been getting at the whole time here is I have to recommend these other ones that are typically a 50 times 2, or they'll list them as 100 watt, but they're a 50 times 2 TPA 3116. So now, just to top it off, down here, I have my Sony STR DE185, which is just a really basic stereo receiver from probably 15 years ago. I got this for, I think, 30 bucks on Facebook for sale. So if space isn't a thing, like these are nice if you're trying to get some good audio in a small space. Like this would be great for a kid's room or a dorm room or a small garage or somewhere where you just don't have a lot of space for an amplifier. But if space isn't an issue, a lot of times if you look hard enough or long enough, you'll find one of these old stereo receivers. This one's rated at 100 times 2. I doubt it actually puts out 100 times 2, but I guarantee it puts out more power than this. So we're going to switch everything over and do it again on that. Hang on. Okay, welcome back. Now we got this guy hooked up, and like I said, I picked him up locally on Facebook for sale. I think it was like 30 bucks. And the guy said he was using it as a home theater receiver, but it's not a home theater receiver. I think what he was doing is he had his fronts hooked to speaker bank A, and then if maybe his rears hooked to B or something. I don't know what he was doing, but it's in pretty good shape, and he even had the remote, which still works. Just needs to be wiped down and cleaned up. But yeah, 30 bucks. I mean, yeah, it's big. It's a little heavy. But if you don't need the tiny little, you're not trying to save space with these guys. Yeah, let's just play some sound on it. Now, Sony rates this as 100 times 2, like a lot of other amplifiers in the last, 20, 30 years. It's not, I doubt it puts out an actual clean or usable 100 times 2. I'm gonna guess it's probably more around 60 to 75 watts times 2, which is fine. Even if it was actually 50 times 2, a good 50 times 2 at 8 ohms, that's still pretty good. That's gonna be quite a bit of power. I can tell you right now, this is gonna get louder than either one of them two. This is going to be able to drive bigger speakers and get louder than either one of them two. And you still have, balance. Some reason, sometimes I like these old, it's not old to me because I remember when this model of Sony stuff came out, but it's older now. Stereo receivers, just because they're pretty simple. They're made okay. You take care of them, they'll last. But you got your balance, treble, bass, and even a bass boost if you want. And they're just, I like this one a lot because the layout on the front's simple. FM, AM, tuning, whatever. Maybe I'll do a review on this later, but yeah, if the size is not a thing, I would still recommend just looking for a good old stereo receiver. Now, if size is an issue, you got a dorm room or a youngster that's, you want to give him his first stereo, but he doesn't have a lot of room, then I would have to, let me unhook this guy. Then I'd have to recommend something like this. This would probably be the next best option. Like I said, I'll link a bunch of these little amplifiers down in the description for you guys to look at. So this is a review. Whoops. This is a review on this. But it's also a review on why not to buy this, and it's not 100% this thing's fault. I think this thing's been for sale for years, and at one time, this was probably a much better option, but anymore, I'd have to say no. And the fact that they're still trying to sell this thing for 40 bucks when there's other options for 40 bucks that are much better, I think they need to knock the price on this down to like 20 bucks, 20, 25 bucks tops. Sorry, Kinter, but that's just what it is now. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching, listening. Got any of the ideas or comments or whatever? I'm not a professional. I'm just sharing my hobby with you. So, like and subscribe. Good night, guys.